Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the DDJF Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the DDJF Foundation. I am TJ Jackson, and with me I have my eldest brother, Taj Jackson, in the house. What's up, Taj?
What's going on, TJ?
We are live Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Central or Eastern time, which is where I'm at. I am in Mexico. Taj is in LA, but we are still doing this show today because this is an important show and we have a great show lined up for you. Saying that, we are live, of course, and you may be watching us on Facebook or YouTube, or you could be listening to us on a podcast. Yes, we have podcast. Our podcast is on all streaming platforms. So if you haven't listened to us there, check us out there. And if you are listening to us, make sure you give us a good rating and leave a message so others can find us. As for a disclaimer, we are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it and we've learned from it. Saying that, if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Do not just rely on us. Mr. Taj Jackson, how was your week?
I think we should go straight. There's
not much going on in your week anyway?
No, we have a lot to cover.
We have a lot to cover, and here's the thing. This is going to be a shorter show because I have to get to a wedding here in Mexico. It's the reason why I am here, and the wedding does start relatively soon. So Taj is right.
I appreciate you asking, but
yeah. Taj is right. So we're going to go straight into it. Okay. So on today's mini episode of the Power of Love show, we are going to break down an amazingly helpful list cultivated by Megan Devine of Refuge In Grief. That's at Refuge In Grief, detailing 10 tips for being a grief ally. Refuge In Grief is an online community resource that helps people navigate their hardest days. So they are another great resource for those who are grieving out there. Check them out. Lastly, we will be linking this list on our social media accounts for those who may want to share it with friends or family that they may think can benefit from reading it. Without much further ado, are you supposed to say much further or just without further ado?
I don't know. I think they both work.
Come on, Todd. I thought that was something you would know. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into this list for our mini episode. Ready? 10 tips for being a grief ally. Mm-hmm. All right. Tip number 1, ask questions. Connect with the person by showing curiosity about their experience. Ask them, how are you today? Or what would feel comforting in this moment. Respect that some questions should not be asked. Avoid asking for details of how the death happened. Taj, what is your feedback for any of that?
I think I like that in terms of, just don't be too pushy, but I like that ask questions because it shows concern and it shows that you actually care, and it kind of opens the door for them to either respond or you kind of can get a sense of what they're what they're willing to share.
And what I like, it inspires someone to ask questions, but also reminds them not to be too pushy. You know, I think when someone loses a loved one, it's very difficult to process. And I think part of the healing process is talking about it and, digesting it. But there's a fine line when it can get to, a little bit too hardcore and a little bit too much. So please be respectful for anyone who is going through grief. Ask questions, but understand there is a balance of respect that needs to happen. Number 2, respect their experience. Especially early in grief, people may get facts and timelines confused. Supporting the person's experience is more important than checking or correcting the facts. What do you think about that, Tosh?
That's a good one because at that point, if they're conversing with you and trying to get something out, the last thing you want to do is be corrected or interrupted in that way. It's just, you're there. You ask the question. Now you're there to listen, pretty much.
Well said. Number 3, we're going to keep moving along. Remember, the grief belongs to the griever. Doesn't
Okay.
belong to you. It belongs to the griever. Every person manages grief differently. Don't minimize their grief, even if you think it's out of proportion to the situation. Let the griever grieve. There's no right, wrong way to grieve. There's no, it should be done this way. You shouldn't do that. Stay away from all of that. Let the griever grieve.
Yeah. No,
Anything else?
I was going to say really quickly that I also think like if it's a similar situation to you, if you're both grieving, you grieve in different ways. So let that person grieve in their way and let you grieve in your way. In that way, don't try and install your how you deal with it in that way, unless you think it honestly could help. But everyone's different.
Yeah. We got some feedback. So we got without further ado. I know I'm back on this. I'm sorry, but don't you want to know this answer? I would.
Yeah.
So why am I saying without much further ado?
Because you want to.
Where am I getting the much for?
You're trying to add your own flavor to it. It's okay.
Hey, man, I try to keep things exciting. Okay. Number 4, reflect their reality. Agree when they say this sucks or this is hard. Sadness is healthy. Allow the griever to experience it. So I guess this is just supporting the grievers, what they're going through. Is that how you're digesting this, Taj?
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No. I mean, it says what you said is exactly what it is.
You are overpaid.
Overpaid. I was actually thinking about your ado. I actually have an answer for it if you really want to hear
it. All right. Number 5.
You don't want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Here's the answer really quickly.
Yes.
It's much ado about nothing, which is probably what you're mixing with without further ado. So you're adding much. I know my brother, that's probably what it is. He's heard 2 sayings and he's connected them.
Taj, you may be right.
Am I overpaid now? No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we're going to continue on. We are almost halfway. We are at number 5. Again, we're talking about 10 tips for grief allies. If someone you know is going through grief, this is the best way to be an ally, a friend, and help them through the process. Number 5, join the person where they are. Whether the person is talking of the past or present, join them there. The future is often not in front of mind in times of grief. And I think this is a huge one. Sometimes people can say, I was just with this person, or if I would have done that, I would have done that. You have to be there with them where they're at in their mindset. You don't want to say, well, in 10 years, things will be better, or in time will heal. Be with them where they're at. If they want to talk about what it's going to be like in the future, then you can express how time will help them heal. But if they're talking about something happened in the past, don't just shun it away and just start talking about something completely different. Join the person where they are.
I think I'm guilty of that. I've been known to try to make them look ahead as opposed to relish in the past. But that's a very good one for me to remember.
And Taj, I don't think you're alone. I would say I'm guilty of that too. And it comes from a great place, a compassionate place of trying to help and trying to get them to feel better. But sometimes we have to let them go through the grieving, and this is why I do like join the person where they are. So remember that if they're talking about the past, stay with them in the past. Let them navigate the conversation. Number 6, trust how they practice self-care. You may offer what has worked for you in times of grief, but know that it may not work for them. So you have to let them, of course, again, we all grieve differently. Just because they are not crying and needing Kleenex, or just because they are crying and needing Kleenex, doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it right. That's not for us to judge. Our role as grief allies is to be there for them and just let them get through this difficult situation.
Agree.
All right. We're moving along too. This is good. Number 7, listen to hear, not to solve. This is a good one. I think a lot of us are guilty of this. In most situations, people who are grieving want to be heard, not to be fixed. I'm going to read that again because I think that's super important. In most situations, people who are grieving want to be heard, not to be fixed. So, again, I would say I'm a bit guilty of this, is where you're trying to help and repair and fix and make someone feel good. When the priority, the main goal is just to listen, is just to hear them out. That's what they're looking for when they're expressing how they're feeling. So listen to hear, not to solve. Taj Jackson, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's a good one. I mean, just be there in the moment with them. And I think sometimes when you're trying to solve, you're not even really listening to what they're saying. You're trying to figure out solution. So just really be there for them.
All right. Acknowledge big and little dates. Set a calendar reminder of birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays and send them a text or a note. Remember that an ordinary Saturday can be difficult too. And I think this is a great one because oftentimes, that's the thing with losing a loved one. Certain random dates can really affect you and not affect anyone else, except maybe a sibling or a parent, or an immediate family, I should say. So acknowledge the big dates and the little dates, and be respectful to, just because it's Saturday and you feel you should go out or have fun. It may be a tough Saturday for someone else, and acknowledge that and be there with them.
Mm-hmm. Self-explanatory.
All right. Beat number 9. Be specific about how you can help. We may say, let me know how I can help, but it's often beyond a griever's capacity to tell you what would be helpful. Instead, be specific with, I can walk your dog tomorrow, or I'd like to bring you dinner on Monday night. So think of how you can help this person. If you're a good cook, maybe cook them something. If you're good at watching animals, ask if you can, help them with their dog one day, or a day is going to be hectic for them. So try to be specific with how you can help. Again, it's something I'm guilty of. Let me know how I can help you. I'm here for you. Those are great things to say, but I think it is much more profound, much more impactful if we could be specific on how we can help.
Yeah. I think Marlene has a good question. She says, what was a bit difficult is sometimes someone grieving seems to be really good, and then all of a sudden he's down or they're down or whatever. It's that roller coaster, and that's real because you just left talking to them or whatever, and you feel okay, they're making progress or they're on the right, and then they fall apart the next day.
Yeah.
And that's very hard, and sometimes it can be discouraging. But I would just say, stay with it, and that's part of the journey, is that roller coaster ride. Just stay there with them, be there with them, and know that they are going to have the highs and the lows, and say, I'm going to be there for the lows, so don't worry. And those lows start getting they not impact, but they don't. You're more numb to them, I would say, in that way. To the lows.
Well, I like this comment by Marlene because it reminds you that just because someone could be going through a great run where they feel good, they're happy, when you lose someone and you're grieving, it can hit you hard, in any moment's notice. It could be a song you listen to, or a TV show, or a voice, or, it could be anything that can trigger that. It could be nothing. It could just be thoughts. So we have to remember that when you lose someone, that there's no real time or schedule for when you're grieving and when you're not. So for us allies, we have to be cognizant of that and remember that just because they were great yesterday doesn't mean they're great today. So I love that aspect of it. And I'm going to go through a couple more comments. Valerie says, great advice on number 8, acknowledge big and little dates. Yes. Valerie, I thought that was great as well. Yes. Ariana says there are different stages of grief, so these steps are very important. Absolutely. There are different stages of grief, and they hit you in different ways, and it seems like it's never completely away. So this is stuff this is why I love what we're doing with Power of Love, is it's something that's we're going to be able to utilize and access for the rest of our lives, because we're all going to deal with grieving. It's part of human nature. So that's one thing I love about, and what we try to do here at Power of Love is we try to give you guys tools. Again, you may not be experiencing this, but one day you will, and it's good to know, all these steps in advance. Number 7, this is the last comment I'll highlight, then we'll finish our list. But Deborah says number 7 is very important. Listen to hear, not to solve. I completely agree, and I'm guilty of this one, as I said. Always trying to help and say what we think should happen or shouldn't happen, but we have to really be there to just hear them out and support them.
Nice.
Talking about support, that is number 10. Show your support and love. It's okay if you don't know what to say or do. Your presence is the best thing you can give them. Again, I'm going to read this again. It's okay if you don't know what to say or do. It's your presence that is the best thing you can give them. So just be there for them. Be there for them and just be there. Be there for them. I don't know how else to say it. If they need to cry, let them cry. If they want to laugh with them. Be there for them.
I think that was super when Mom passed and we all went to Havenhurst, and all my friends and your friends were there, just standing there. Didn't have to be holding my shoulder or condoling me, just standing there. I felt that presence and I felt that support. And that really helps a long way, more than they would even know.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's do this real quick. I'm going to just pull this up for anyone who's watching on our Facebook or YouTube. And here's another thing. If you're getting something, please make sure you like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment, because all that helps keep the dialogue going, and it helps others. It helps the algorithm so others can find this content. But here it is, 10 tips for grief allies. I'll leave this up for another 20 seconds or so. You guys can pause it if you want to get through it. But when supporting others who may be grieving, remember that you don't need to be perfect, just present. Here are some tips adopted from Refuge In Grief to get you started. Again, I want to just say a big thank you and a great list to @Refuge In Grief. Check them out. They are another resource for anyone who's grieving. Taj Jackson, I know I sound like I'm rushing because I kind of am, but is there anything else you want to say before we start to close out?
Chicken feet. We got our first donation on YouTube. Chicken feet.
Oh, it's okay. You know what, Taj? Is that from Super Chat?
I don't know. It's highlighted and it's
okay. Let's see. So that's another thing that we were supposed to mention actually last week, and then this week it's a rush show, so I didn't want to mention it. But Taj mentioned it, so I guess we will talk about it. We are now having Super Chat and Super Stickers on YouTube to support DDJF, and like Taj just did, not even realizing it, but when there's a donation, we will get notified. If you go donate through Super Chat or Super Stickers on our DDJF channel, it will go straight to our foundation. And again, there's no paid members on our foundation. Everything that is donated goes to what we do and the programs we do to help those who are going through grief. So cool. Thank you, Chicken Feet, for that donation as well. Taj Jackson, what else?
That's it, TJ. I mean, we rushed through it. I think it was a nice, super condensed episode in terms of, I think it was very powerful. And I like the list.
Yeah. So instead of canceling this show or canceling this episode, we wanted to do a quicker episode. So we came up with 10 tips for grief allies. With that said, we want to thank you all for joining. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube or Facebook. And again, if you're listening on the podcast, please make sure you rate our show and make sure you subscribe. Anything else? I'm closing.
No, just be there for people. I think that's right. We all need it right now.
Cool. And the one that I really like, listen to hear, not to solve. Listen to be there for them. Don't try to solve all the solutions. All right, everyone. Taj Jackson, TJ Jackson, representing the D.D. Jackson Foundation. We will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for joining us.